We're calling to order this meeting of the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Please note the attendance. Our first item of business is approval of the minutes of the regular HRA meeting of May 16th, 2016, and the special concurrent HRA City Council and Planning Commission work session of May 24th, 2016.
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve both sets of minutes. Do we have any corrections or changes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've approved both sets of minutes. Our second item is approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the agenda's been approved. Our next item is the consent calendar. Ms. Barton?
Thank you, Chair Supple. The consent calendar contains two separate items this evening, which are acted upon by the HRA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further HRA action on these items is necessary. All items listed on the consent calendar are recommended for approval. Item A is consideration of the approval of a resolution approving the First Amendment to the Preliminary Development Agreement with Inland Development Partners, LLC, and authorizing the chairperson and executive director to execute the agreement. And item B is consideration of the approval of a request to release a new home second mortgage at 6822 Queen Avenue South. And that concludes the consent calendar for this evening.
Are there any questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay, go ahead.
At least on item A, I'm just curious if we have developed a tickler system or some sort of diary system when we run into a situation so our notes don't become unenforceable. That's what happened in item A. I mean, she closed out her first mortgage, and the note became unenforceable because we didn't try to collect on it within 6 years of the maturity date. And I'm just wondering if we have set something out to at least take, I mean, in this situation, if it happened, that's fine. I'm just wondering if we have some way of catching that or not letting it fall through the cracks again.
Chair Supple and Commissioner Elliott, these are several old loans that we had issues with, and we have gone through and pulled out the ones that we've had issues with, and there shouldn't be problems with the newer loans the way they've been written. The language in these old loans was vague and ambiguous in cases such as this, and there was just no way to track them.
Right, okay. And I'll give credit for the city attorney. I think it makes sense. You look at it, you do the analysis, and you say it doesn't make any sense to pursue civil action because it costs our money, causes harm to the homeowner, and it doesn't move the ball at all. So I appreciate her making that suggestion. In terms of item B, I'm curious, and I'm not totally familiar with reverse mortgages and everything, but I'm surprised, and maybe the audience can fill me in on this. I'm surprised that notice of the $15,000 second mortgage or loan from the city wasn't addressed or wasn't raised or wasn't presented when they were underwriting the reverse mortgage. If it was there and it was paying down, that eventually there's going to be a problem between satisfying that reverse mortgage and paying off that loan.
I believe that's a
item
different
4.
agenda
I
item,
thought
so
that
we're
was on
not to
B.
that one yet.
That's
No,
not B. Okay, I'm
B
sorry.
is not.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought that
Into
they were.
that later.
All right, so set that aside till later.
Are there any other questions about the consented items?
I have a B question. So, I don't think there's any problem approving it. They were living there for 33 years, so give them a break. But, you mentioned that you looked through the old records, old loans. Are there several others, Karen, or do you know how many there are that might fall into this category?
Offhand, I don't know how many remain. I think it's probably just one or two that we may have issues with.
Okay, thank you.
All right, also, I wanted to, as a point of personal privilege for item A, as I think we should thank the Anderson companies for their flexibility, because they had that whole development ready to go, and then we switched where the parkway went. So I think that we owe them thanks for being flexible and switching their designs, because that puts them through a lot of extra work.
Yes, it did.
All right, so do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, we've adopted the consent agenda. The next item is consideration of forgiveness of a Housing and Redevelopment Authority deferred loan at 7432 Washburn Avenue. Ms. Barton?
Thank you, Chair Supple, Commissioners. In 2000, Gladys Lenders, the homeowner of 7432 Washburn Avenue, received a deferred loan for $15,000 to make improvements to her home. The loan carries a 30-year term with no interest and no payments and is due to be forgiven June 21st of 2030. Due to medical reasons that require her to relocate, the homeowner is attempting to sell the property. The first mortgage is a reverse mortgage and the balance is $122,500. The homeowner received 3 offers to purchase the property, the highest of which being $138,000. After satisfying the first mortgage, paying fees, commissions, closing costs, which total $137,800, the homeowner is left with nothing really to repay the HRA loan and is therefore asking for forgiveness of the loan from the HRA. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions?
I
No,
was-
Commissioner
Again,
Elliott.
The only question I really have is on the underwriting, both for the reverse mortgage, and I don't know when she took that out and how that played out with the deferred loan. I'm just surprised that if they did the underwriting and she had a deferred loan or a potential liability against the homestead of $15,000 that was owed to us, even though it was forgivable over a period of time, that somebody wouldn't have checked with us. I'm just curious to the process on if you're underwriting that, and obviously it paid it down to 122.5. I'm just wondering how that factors in with the underwriting, and if I'm doing the due diligence on a reverse mortgage, what sort of financial things like that are going to have an impact on whether or not I'm going to give them the mortgage?
Yeah.
Can you come up to the microphone and state your name? Thank you.
That's okay, Gladys.
No problem.
Could you state your name and your position?
Yes, my name is Kelly Kruger, and I am the assistant to Ted Field, who is the listing agent for this property. And as far as in regard to your question, with the reverse mortgage underwriting, I do not know how they went about the title search or what have you for approving the reverse mortgage. We were caught off guard when the title work came back in the process for this sale of the $15,000. Shirley, the personal representative, the sister of Gladys, had no idea that she had even taken out this loan. Gladys has dementia, so it is really hard to know what
Right.
happened.
I know who this is.
So everybody was kind of caught off guard on this when it came through.
Well, yeah, I can imagine, and one of the reasons the question comes up, particularly if the availability for the deferred loans and everything don't necessarily go to our more senior citizens or something like that, but and I know that I've watched a number of HRA meetings, and I've been a member for a while. Normally on those deferred loans where it's forgivable after a certain period of time, like in this one, it's in 2020, if there's a circumstance, whether like this but not exactly the same or something, what's the standard procedure, at least with the city and with the HRA in addressing these? Do you take them on a fact-by-fact basis and make a determination based on the facts presented on each individual case and do an independent judgment as the HRA on whether or not these circumstances warrant just, forgiving it and letting it go? I'm just trying to get some sense in the past how they've been dealt with and if it's just on a case-by-case basis.
Ms. Barton?
Chair Supple and Commissioner Elliott, we previously we would allow reverse mortgages with the deferred loan program. We typically don't allow that anymore. We won't subordinate to a reverse mortgage for this very reason.
Okay.
And this was an older loan that happened under previous policies. So, but in any event, we always do look at situations as they arise and take them on a case-by-case basis, and whether or not we bring them to the HRA for subordination or forgiveness or whatever's necessary.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rubenstein?
Yeah, I have a question. The current Hennepin County estimated market value is 161. And usually those are lowballing it. And yet it sold for 137, am I correct? That's a substantial difference. Is this house on the inside in that bad shape?
Yeah, it is. Mhm.
Okay. It's bad.
Okay. Commissioner Gepner?
I have a question about reverse mortgages, so that at the time it was taken out, either the homeowner got the money or was getting so much money per month? Is that the way it probably worked?
Correct. They usually get paid monthly
Okay,
with the reverse mortgage.
are they typically written that at some point in time, we're gonna kick you out?
No, they are written that there's a finite amount of money that will be paid to the homeowner.
Yep.
And that the homeowner can stay there until they're ready to sell, and at that time, the bank gets paid back the amount in the
But
mortgage.
there was a
And
reference
it
here
accrues interest.
to it being foreclosed if we didn't do this, so how did that come about?
That she wouldn't be able to sell the house and clear all the debts against it, the HRA loan, so she wouldn't be able to close on the property, and it would just have to let it go into foreclosure.
So it's my understanding that if we say no to this, it goes into foreclosure and we get nothing. And if we say yes to this, we forgive it and we get nothing. So the outcome is the same for the city and the HRA, correct?
That's correct.
We don't have an empty house.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we have somebody
the
who's willing to
difference.
buy it and probably fix it up and make it nice, and unfortunate for Gladys that she'll be able to move on with what quality of life she can.
So it's not a financial thing, it's more a quality for the neighborhood and quality of life for the
Yeah.
homeowner.
Yeah, for the former homeowner, yeah.
Do you know, excuse me?
Go ahead, Commissioner Rubenstein.
Do you have any idea if the new owner is planning to actually live in the house, or if they're going to be renting it out, or?
They are an investor,
They are an investor.
so I don't know. I don't think that they'll be living in it personally, but I believe they're going to flip it. Bring it back to its former glory and resell.
Okay.
So it will be occupied. I'm just not sure if it would be a renter or an owner.
Okay. But they're planning on flipping.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, I would then make a motion to approve the proposal made by the owner of 7432 Washburn Avenue to forgive a $15,000 deferred loan.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we've approved the proposal. The next item on our agenda, it would be the HRA discussion items. Are there any items that anyone would like to bring up?
Madam Chair, I was just at the Advisory Board of Health meeting, and we had a discussion around housing and smoke-free housing. And we do have housing here in Richfield, apartments that are smoke-free. And if you didn't know that, we do. We are talking about a similar program to the Food Awards for possibility of at least recognizing those homes that apartment homes, whatever, multifamily, and that are smoke-free. And to what level? So we would have levels of award, is it just in the outside or in the common areas, or is it in the entire building? So we're looking at something like that as rather the incentive rather than the stick, to encourage the non-smoking society. And for some people who have severe allergies, those kinds of places are really needed for them. So that was a discussion. I thought it was interesting, and it had a housing flavor to it.
Thank you. Are there any other items?
I have a question. Do you hear any more from Claire and how they're doing on their quest?
Boyclair?
Claire.
Claire.
Boyclair?
Claire, yeah.
Yes. Yes, we are currently in the process of negotiating the terms of the contract for private development. Once that is finalized, then they will be moving forward with acquiring or attempting to acquire the single-family properties that remain in the development area and moving forward with their planning process.
Have the neighbors been updated?
We've been in contact with the neighbors, sent out letters, and I have been emailing with a couple of the different residents in the neighborhood. So,
And on a similar note, the Anderson extension. So what is their new timeline?
Anderson requested an extension of the preliminary agreement to November 30th, which was approved this evening. That gives us time to work through the terms of the formal contract for private development, and as such, they are anticipating breaking ground in the spring of next year.
Where originally it was this summer or fall?
It's going to be late this year.
Yeah.
They were thinking November.
Are there any other questions? I would be interested in hearing about also the former city garage property. I don't know if you're going to cover that in your executive director report, otherwise you can.
I was, but I'll jump in with it now.
Okay.
The garage property is, we're set to, we have a development agreement with Masaba Capital for the project. They're set to close on the land at the end of August, and that is continuing to move forward at this time. Those timelines are still in place. And then, assuming that everything stays on track, they would break ground this fall.
I had one other item just as a FYI. It was interesting. I've been told that one of the summer school classes at the Richfield Middle School, as their project, is going to have the kids come up with ideas for what they could do for the Cedar Corridor redevelopment. So your office might get contacted for information on that. So they were very excited about what they were going to put forward for ideas.
We should make them present at the city
Yeah, that's
council.
fun. Just one other thing. On Channel 11 news today, they were covering the issue of senior housing and how the state is aging rapidly, and the need for it, and resistance in one particular community, but the experience that is be found in just about every community where senior housing is being proposed. So we've had, a lot of discussion here, that's for sure, but other communities are far more opposed to it than we are. So, hooray for us.
Are there any other items for discussion? All right, then we'll move on to item number 6, the executive director report.
I have nothing further.
Oh, thank you. Claims and payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the claims and payroll, or approve them. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've approved the claims and payroll. Seeing no further business, we stand adjourned.